Yeah, with Red Ransom banned, evidently Malice is really good still. So make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that next play button so you guys don't miss out on more. It's got a new format, means new opportunities, and that's exactly what we have today from Next Play. 42 players came out and decided to challenge the meta with Sky Striker leading the charge here. We followed up with Albaz, Draco, Tail, Mitsurugi, Vanquish Soul. We had 2 Malice players in Top Cut, which is hilarious. We also had 2 Radiant Typhoon. We also had 2 Hero, 2 Mermail. And then you kind of got everything else underneath the fold here that you would want to see, like the White Forest, Magnet Warriors, looks like Enya Craft. The one-ofs for this tournament were pretty much in full swing. Now remember, I mean, this is new format. This is, we're a week ahead of schedule here. We're testing out the waters to see, which decks are going to be the best here. And you can tell by your representation that people really latched on to Sky Striker as that go-to deck. Now, your top 8 is very interesting, honestly, because both of your Malice players ended up creeping on into the Top Cut, which Malice ended up winning this event. What? Yes, it is true, actually. We also had 2 Sky Striker decks also making their way into Top Cut. I don't know why you'd be surprised to see Sky Striker doing well. I know I was a little bit harsh on it yesterday, looking at it, saying that I didn't think it was going to be that powerful, but I guess they really removed the limiter on this meta, and they've really given this stuff a chance to shine. We also had 1 Radiant Typhoon, which, by the way, Radiant Typhoon has been winning like every single week at Next Play. So to actually see, another one creep in is not that absurd. We also had a Vanquish Soul, and we also had a Canine deck. Both decks that very much look to use the Canine package were very much present for this event. And we also had a Lunalight deck. Yeah, Lunalight still kind of remains one of those very strong decks, but definitely a representation. Now let's pass on over to deck list. So winning our event here is actually, yeah, I kid you not, man. We actually have the Power of Malice winning. And Red Ransom's gone. You just have gone to like Update Jammer to revive back a body so that you can kind of do things a little bit more consistently. You gotta remember they also still have the Decode Link 1, which, I mean, in hindsight does help the deck out a little bit, but they no longer have the Splash Mage, which really helps out. You do see that the deck is side decking Dimensional Fissures here to kind of clear up a little bit of that void, just to kind of make sure that, the deck can kind of start its engines and go. We also do get to see the G-Golem monster down here also coming into play, but the deck's just packing in a little bit more extra Bestials. Backup at Ignister still works very, very beautifully for this deck. I think everything that you're seeing in terms of power scaling for this deck is a very, very scary reality. Yeah, Malice is still going. Next up here we have Sky Striker. Now, you do see that we are relying on Soul Drains in the main deck. There are a lot of matchups that Sky Striker do not want to walk into. I can undoubtedly assure you of that. And those matchups are horrendous. That's why you're bringing in something like Soul Drain here, because Malice can just build boards. And the fact that this duelist was prepared for a Malice matchup in a post-environment world is very interesting and very early stabilization. You also do see we are doing 2 Foolish Burial Goods. We also have the Metal Foes Fusion in here to get dumping, which is going to be just fine. I do see just 2 Fallen and Virtuous in the main deck. I think that's fine. Fallen and Virtuous is just going to be one of those key cards to kind of give you some dump mobility and kind of go. We've seen it actually perform up very, very well in terms of, standards. So Sky Striker doing what we expected. We also had Radiant Typhoon. Well, you slap the crown in this deck. You also have the Fallen and the Virtuous in here, being able to dump down, loop back Albion, and then get more additional access to it. When one card turns into potentially 3, it does get a little bit disgusting. Now, you are going to see we are side decking the triple Featherstorm. You do not have much of a choice of that anymore. I think you have to rely on Featherstorm just to make sure that you are able to kind of stabilize. Also, triple Dimensional Barrier. The OCG still has access to this card, which is kind of a crazy concept when you think about it, because this card does nothing but cause problems. And the fact that this deck is playing you know, 3-dimensional barrier, 3 copies of the Featherstorm. You just have such unfun conditions that you're putting on your opponents. I'm not all that surprised to see once again that this deck did well. And then bringing up the rear here is another Malice deck, actually, which is crazy to think about. Both of them made it into top 4. This one is doing other firewall plays, which is definitely not a terrible sign. We do see the update jammer just to make sure that you can get the bodies revived, because once again, I mean, that's the whole point. Also, none of these builds are playing the white binder at multiples. No, actually, it's the exact opposite right now. They're just choosing to play the one, and yet the deck is still able to, you know, do its thing. We are playing the Heat Soul in this build as well to act as an extender. We're also playing all 3 of the traps in here as well, which I do think is fine. And of course, you just want to top it off a little bit. We're tossing the Illusion Gate in here as well, just to kind of make sure that, you know, you've got, I think, all of your pieces coming together for a list like this. So I like what we're seeing. I think that this was definitely an interesting choice, and it shows that, you know, even in a world where Red Ransom's gone, Malice is doing great. So what happens when you rip the generic monster out of the Fiendsmith deck? Well, the deck has to find a way, because you can't stick 2 monsters together anymore to access, you know, the Fiendsmith package. And Engraver is still a 1 in the OCG, which is kind of crazy, by the way, because losing Mini Underworld Goddess feels like it sent Magnet Warriors back, like, how many potential formats? It's a lot, actually, to kind of think about that deck lost. But in terms of initial setup, I mean, the deck still is just Earthbearer Statue Turbo, or at least the way that this build is trying to play itself is, you know, we're trying to turbo through, get the barrier statue set up, and kind of go. And it's a little bit intriguing, honestly. I think that the Earth Barrier statue is a cool card, but man, the resources for it is so bad. Next up, we also had some rescues for this event. Now, Emergency just finally went to 3 in the OCG, and a lot of people are celebrating because they want to play rescues. You know, you did get a new link for a little while back. You want to test things out. I do see this build is playing 2 copies of the Promethean Princess, which is not a bad extra deck card, especially, you know, getting the revives, and you can pop, you know, something on your field to have it float back and control the opponent, which is not terrible. I do see that we are playing the, I mean, they do get access to OSS in this deck, which is a completely different creature in and of itself, right? Like, the extra turbo access to the Bridging Fire package is really, really strong. And you know, the sad part is, even with this extra package present, it wasn't consistent enough to actually get this deck into, you know, the top 8, which is kind of sad, man, because, you know, this being like 2 years ago, this deck would have been crazy fire, but that's what power creep actually does to you. Next up here, we have some Lunalights. Now, you just see 2 Leo Dancer, which is fine, 2 Liger Dancer. We're maximizing on the triple copies of Fractal, which is good. The only real thing that I guess this deck lost was, like, a singular Impulse. I mean, like, does that even actually matter at this point? Because, I mean, you're already main decking the triple heavy poly. All right, your whole goal is to get that heavy poly up and running. You slam that in, you're probably going to be setting up a pretty strong field. So I guess that's kind of like your takeaway with Lunalight. Like, the deck lost nothing. I also see that we are playing the fusion spell that can banish from the graveyard. So we're really getting creative here with the little things that a list like this can do. We also have, oh boy, the outer entities coming to town to do some very, very degenerate things. Well, people, if you expected Lunalights to just up and leave, it wasn't never going to happen. And then we have some Mermail action for you. They got Toad back, so I don't blame them for wanting to rush out and to give this deck a shot. Like, that would be my initial thing here, too. You know, they also still have access to the Water Barrier statue, which I think does make a pretty big difference for what this deck wants to do. Also, you know, Bahamut Shark into the Toad is pretty much the typical go-to play. We've also got the General down here in the side deck as well to kind of grind out your opponent. The fact that they're not main decking General Ryo is kind of interesting too, but, you know, they're still figuring out the new format. So, definitely an interesting time today. But what do you guys think? Please comment down below, tell me what you guys think. I'll see your beautiful faces back there and dig. patrons. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.